And I'll tell you, it's in your experience in shooting your movies. I'm not sure if you've seen it where you are. I think most communities are excited about what you're doing. It's a bit of a novelty, They think of Hollywood. Wow, lights, cameras, actions, movie stars, right? And even if it's not that, most people are really welcoming and accepting and excited about you coming and shooting maybe in their neighborhoods, in their homes, in their little stores, in their restaurants or whatever, and it becomes kind of a thing, and people become very proud of of that, and that's sort of a phenomenon that's always happened with movies, So yes.
You use the term overshot. Some areas are overshot. If I want the backdrop to be Atlanta, for
Sure.
example, is it to my benefit to make sure that the scene is something that people recognize, or could I recreate that anywhere?
You could recreate it anywhere, and many times, especially nowadays, they do that. And in fact, I can tell you that between Buffalo and Niagara Falls, those are our major cities that we shoot in. I can tell you we've doubled for Los Angeles. We've, weird as that sounds, we've doubled for Cincinnati, Ohio. We've doubled for New Orleans, weirdly, and go figure, right? We've doubled for Winnipeg, Manitoba, Montreal. It's just, and very, very often New York City. It's strange the way we get all those. But you know what? People want to operate in an area where they're getting a good tax incentive, which, New York State is one of the more lucrative ones out there. They also want to operate where it's easy to navigate. So we always laugh here, like in Buffalo, if any of the locals will know this, you say, oh, we can get anywhere in 20 minutes. You want to get out to a farm field in, Eden, New York? It's 20 minutes. You want to go to the suburbs? It's 20 minutes. You want to go up to Niagara Falls from Buffalo? 20 minutes. You can't get out of a parking lot in New York City in 20 minutes. So, I mean, it's like crazy to think that these people come here and they can't believe the ease of movement. So from that perspective, very often we'll see them come, if they're shooting in New York City, they'll go get some establishing shots there, maybe send a second unit. Sometimes they'll even send the principal unit there. But in the end, they can get a lot more here than they bargained for. I'll give you a quick story about that. In fact, Quiet Place 2. They were scheduled at the end of that movie to go shoot at Martha's Vineyard. And they budgeted very big, amount of money for that, because remember that 65 trucks I told you about, and transportation, all the vehicles that they use? All of those, or most of those vehicles, were headed to Martha's Vineyard. They're gonna have to be put on a ferry, going out to where they were gonna shoot in the harbor and so forth. Do you know that they found a little place along Lake Erie here called Barcelona Harbor? And they did that, all of those sequences that you saw at the end of that movie where they're, in this marina, which should have been, and they scouted Martha's Vineyard for, they realized, why would we spend all those tens of millions of extra dollars when we could do it here for a few million? And they did that. That's exactly what they did. So you're right, you can shoot anywhere and call it whatever. And there's a certain amount of creative license that you can take with things like that. I've seen it happen. There was a film I watched just the other day that was supposed to take place in Sarasota, and I watched it because the writer of that movie was here scouting, and so I wanted to be familiar with his work. And so I looked at that and I thought, wow, Sarasota, Florida. I know people that live there, and family members that once lived there and so forth. And in the end, they shot it in South Carolina because that's where they could get a, so the wind up in this movie, it's kind of a crazy movie. It's called Christine. It's about a lot of it revolved around a television station in the 1970s. So what they were able to find in South Carolina is a closed television station. There wasn't one in Sarasota. So authenticity, it looked pretty good. It looked like it was done in Sarasota. And, in fact, it was a couple of states north of there. So no, you can really cheat. We had a few years ago, that one that we talked about, doubling for Los Angeles. Now, we don't have palm trees here, right? We don't really have that kind of weather here, although they did shoot this in the summer, so it worked. And then what they did is they took some old police cars, because it was a police movie, and they painted them black and white, which, you know, at that time, the Buffalo Police, they're now black and whites, but back then they weren't. And so they repainted the cars, and, you know, you had people very confused when they saw a Los Angeles police car drive by them in the middle of Buffalo. So it was, no, you could pretty much shoot them. That was Crown Vic, yeah. And that was, sadly, that was, the director of that movie was Joel Souza, or is Joel Souza, who was very famously shot, not killed, but shot by, in that Alec Baldwin thing on the movie set of Rust. So we all prayed very much and reached out to Joel after the, you know, shooting and after that incident, and luckily he, you know, he sort of healed very quickly. So we're glad that in fact, that team will be coming back to Buffalo sometime soon, so to shoot another movie. So we're anxious to welcome them and do that. But that movie in particular was one of the wackiest, because when I heard, you know, how are we gonna play for Los Angeles? Well, we did.
And it was like 90 degrees.
It was. The weather really cooperated with them. And, you know, it was a violent movie. There was a lot of shoot 'em up. There were AK-47s being shot and all over town and so forth. And, you know, again, if you work with us, you can get that stuff done, you know.